My father's name is Ternae Jordan Sr., and he has been the biggest influence in my life. Now, when I look at my life, it has indeed been a journey. It's been a journey in deciding on which direction I want to take. You see, when you have a father who has pastored for 25 years and a grandfather who pastored for 40 years, I'm sure you would agree that there have been some expectations or influence or impact of how I live my life. You see, what I have in common with my father and my grandfather is that all three of us have a passion. We have a huge passion to help people get a larger vision of themselves, a passion to teach methods and techniques or where they can create new chapters in their lives. We have a passion, particularly in today's day of age where we are dealing with political evils and racial unrest, and this coronavirus have all turned our lives upside down. We also have a passion to teach people that you are more than a conqueror, and that greater is he that is in you than he that is in the world, and that you are made in the image and you're made in the likeness of God, and you have authority and dominion over the face of the earth. But we don't want you to just hear those words or speak those words, but we want you to be able to manifest those words into your life. I want you to think about something. Ask yourself this question. What is it that you want? What do you want? What is important to you? And what are your passions? What are you passionate about? And write this down. Integrity. Be true to yourself. Be true to yourself. You know, when I think about my father, you know, there are many people that would say, and you may have heard them say, that you have to practice what you preach. Nah, not my father. You see, my father believes that you need to preach what you practice. You see, if you're going to be successful in life, you're going to have to be honest with yourself. Over 40 million people have lost their jobs, and the numbers are steadily rising on a daily basis. And many of those jobs have been replaced, and many more jobs will be replaced by artificial intelligence. One thing my father taught me, he always said, son, you're going to have to be true to yourself. He told us that I will leave you a good name. You know, God told Abraham the same thing. God told Abraham that I will make your name great. And why? Why did God tell Abraham that? Well, I surmise that God told Abraham that because God knows that a good name and a good reputation is important. It's important. Let me ask you this question. If you're in a room full of people, it can be a room full of people, maybe your family members, maybe your friends, your colleagues, or associates. But if you're in a room full of people and you leave that room, what are the conversations about you? What are the conversations about you? I can tell you what the conversation about my father will be. You see, growing up in a city in Fort Wayne, Indiana, is where I used to live, and then the city that we presently live in now, Chattanooga, Tennessee, you will find people that would say that Dr. Ternae Jordan Sr. is a good man. That is a man of integrity. That is a man who loves God, a man who loves his family, and a man who loves his community. Yes, you will hear that. But you know, one of the greatest moments in my life, the best phone calls that I ever received was a phone call that I received from my father. My father called me one day. He said, son, I need to talk with you. I'll say, okay, Dad, everything okay? He said, yes, it is. He said, son, I'm so proud of you. He said, son, you are my namesake. You are Ternae Jordan Jr. And I told you, and I told your sister DeWan and your brother Jermichael, that one day I'm going to have to leave this earth. And if I leave before you all leave this earth, that I'm not going to be able possibly to leave you a lot of tangible things. But one thing I promise you three children is that one thing I will leave you, and that is a good name. He said, but son, as I go throughout this community, if I go throughout the city and I have conversations with people, your name often comes up. And what I can tell you is, son, you are making my name better. You are making the Jordan name greater. Oh my goodness, I can't even begin to tell you what that did to me. To hear my father, the man that I'm trying to follow in his footsteps, the man I'm trying to fit in his shoes, the man I'm trying to be just like, the man that I admire, to tell me that I'm making his name greater. Oh my goodness. I can't tell you what they did to me. And as I'm speaking to you now, it's still doing something to me. Listen, live a life that outlives you. Live a life that outlives you. Listen, I want you to operate out of the thinking of that individual that said, don't go where the path may lead, but go where there is no path and leave a trail. Or from the thoughts and the voice of Robert Frost, when he said, 2 roads diverged in the yellow wood, but I took the road less traveled, and that made all the difference. And then the next thing I want you to write down the word faithful. Write down the word faithful. Listen. If you want to determine whether or not you're going to be successful, you got to ask yourself, are you consistent? My father is faithful. If you're his friend, you're his friend. He's not a fair weather friend. If he's committed to do something, you best believe he's going to do just that, and you can count on it. If he gives you his word, you can take that to the bank. You can call him at 3 o'clock in the morning. You may have betrayed him. You may not have been faithful to him. You may not have kept your word towards him. You may not have showed up for him when you said that you would. But he's not going to ask you what time it is. He's going to ask you one question. And that question he's going to ask you is, where are you? Listen, those are the type of people that we need in our lives. We need people who are consistent. We need individuals who are committed. We need people that will honor their words as themselves. I'm going to tell you something that you may not even know. But do you know that we all live 3 lives? That's right. We have 3 lives that we live. We live our personal life, we live our private life, and we live our secret life. But the people who live from integrity, like my father, are all in alignment. And then I want you to write down the word supportive. The word supportive. I remember, just like it was yesterday, that day that I reluctantly went to my father and I said, Dad, I need to talk with you. I said, Dad, I feel as if I'm being led into ministry and I don't want to do it. That is not what I want to do. I said, Dad, I seen what you and Granddad went through as pastors and what my great uncle has gone through and the men in our family who are being ministers. I don't want to deal with that. And my dad looked at me and he said, son, I know. I know you don't want to do it. He said, but what do you want to do? See, one thing my father knew is this. See, my father already knows that I am a recording artist and I am a songwriter. I am a music producer. And I wanted to travel the world on stages everywhere. I wanted my name in lights. I wanted screaming and raging fans. I wanted them screaming my names from rooftops. I wanted people running after me after I got out of the limos. I wanted stalkers. I wanted all. That's right. I wanted stalkers. I say how you looking at me. Listen, you can't be a real superstar if you don't have any stalkers. I wanted stalkers. And my father knew that. But my father said, do what you want to do. But I have one question. And he asked me this. Why? You see, Nietzsche said, if you know your why for living, then you can endure almost anyhow. See, what my father wanted to know was my answer to the why, because if my answer made sense, if my answer had value, if my answer made significant things that go to this world and contribute to the world, then he was all in of supporting me. I gave him my answer, and I've had his support ever since. You see, that's what we have to do today. We have to be supportive. We have to be supportive with people that we work with. We have to be supportive with our family members. We have to be supportive with our friends. We have to be supportive. Listen, you may not agree with what they want to do. You may not understand what they want to accomplish. But our job is to be supportive. We are to motivate them. We want to encourage them to accomplish what it is that they want to accomplish. That's what being supportive is all about. And my father was extremely and still is extremely supportive to me. And then the next thing I want you to write down the word unifier. Unifier. You see the time that we're in right now? You know, Les Brown, the infamous motivational speaker that have transformed my life from a distance. He is a man that he mentions a story where there was a lady from Australia that he was coaching. And he was coaching this lady. And he asked this woman, he said, "Why do you want me to coach you to speak?" The lady said to him, he said, "Mr. Brown, listen, I saw you speak in the Georgia Dome. And when you spoke, you commanded an audience of over 80,000 people. And when I saw you do that, I said to myself, that's what I want to do. I want to do that. I want to speak." Mr. Brown said, "Wow," and began to continue coaching her. And as he continued coaching her, he stopped and he asked her the infamous question that my father asked me. He said, "Why?" The lady paused for a moment and said, "Mr. Brown, I believe the world is as it is, not because there are a few people who are evil, a few people who are divisive or violent, but I believe that the world is as it is today simply because too many people are silent. They're silent. And I want to be that voice that will bring people together." Wow. Did you hear that? She said, "I want to be that voice that will bring people together." And you know what? My father is the same way. My father works diligently every single day to get people to turn to each other rather than on each other. My father believes that one goose can fly 75% further in formation with other geese than flying by itself. Listen, this is not the time. This is not the time to go solo. This is the time to build relationships, achievement-driven relationships that will help you live a life that will outlive you. You gotta find people to collaborate with so that you can be the person that you desire to be. And then the last thing I want you to write down is visionary. Oh boy, my father is a visionary. When I tell you his dreams and his vision are so huge, you know what? Many people fail not because they aim high and they miss the mark, but many people fail simply because they don't aim at all. You know, my father has huge visions and he have had big goals, and many times people didn't see it. Can I be honest with you? There are many times that I didn't even see when he was singing. But you know, that is the type of people that we need to become. We need to become that individual that are willing to take chances. We have to take chances. Visionaries take risk. True visionaries take risk. There was an individual that said, if you're not willing to risk, then you can't grow. And if you can't grow, then you can't become your best. And if you can't become your best, then you can't be happy. And if you can't be happy, then what else is there? What else is there? You know, one of the greatest manifestations on the face of the earth is a theme park that we know of called Walt Disney World. And the visionary of Walt Disney World died later on down the years. And one of his employees said to another employee, said, "Wow, I wish Mr. Walt was able to see this. This is gorgeous. This is wonderful." And that individual responded by saying, he did see it. He did see it. He had the vision. And because he saw it and had the vision, then we're able to see it for him. You see, as you look to yourself and you look to your goals, you got to understand there are going to be roads to be crossed, things to be done. There's going to be things that's going to require integrity, faithfulness, and collaborative mindsets. Maya Angelou said this. Maya Angelou said, "No one cares what you know." Who cares what you know? No one cares what you know until they know how much you care. And this is the time where you have to be a unifier. This is the time to bring those people together. This is the time to do masterminding. This is the time to dream big and go after what it is that you want. This is the time to be a visionary. A visionary. He said, I'll give you all that your eyes can see. But you know what the problem is? The problem is that many of us are dying from the lack of vision. We're dying because we have no vision. Listen to me. Give your life an infusion. Give your life an infusion so that you can accomplish what it is that you're supposed to accomplish for humanity and this world. I want you to go way beyond just working on a job and retiring off of 40%, which wasn't enough in the first place. There's so much more that's available to you. Aim high. Bet on yourself. Challenge yourself so that you can get the greatest thing that is available to you. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to think about something. I want you to think about that thing that triggers you. What is that thing that triggers you? You know, there was a story that I want to share with you real briefly. One of the things I remember about my father is that moment in life where my family, we endured one of the most traumatic experiences that we ever had to experience. In 1993, there was a young man that pulled out a gun. And he pulled out a gun to kill someone else. When that young man pulled that trigger, the bullet that left that weapon landed in my head. And my father, being a man of integrity, my father who had faith in what it is that he believes in, my father who is supportive, my father who is a unifier. At that time, in that year, there was so much gang violence going on in the city. And my father went to high-leveled gang leaders and brought them together to try to unify and see what could be done. How can they come together? How could we all come together to stop the violence in our city? That's what he did. He tried to unify as a unifier. And matter of fact, one of the gang leaders that he was working with was the one that shot me. That bullet that left that weapon came from the gang leader that he was working with and trying to plead with to stop doing what it was that he was doing. Because if he did not stop, it was going to turn out bad for him and destroy his life. And worse, death. On October 27, 1993, I died. I was one step away from eternal death. I died, but they brought me back. They brought me back. You know, we got to understand that there are times when we deal with traumatic experiences, and what we often do is we run straight to God only to find out that He was the one doing the shaking. We go to God and He's the one that shook it all up. Speaking of shaking, the ironic thing about shaking is the fact that the young man that shot me ran the streets with the nickname Shaky. That's right. They called him Shaky on the streets. And I often say, wow, that's probably why he missed his target and the bullet hit me instead, because he was shaky. Whatever the case may be, I don't know. The case is I died and He revived my life by God's grace and mercy. God's grace and mercy. I'm still here today. I want you to know something. Several years ago, my father, myself, and my sister, we went back up to Indiana to go see Shaky. Unfortunately, Shaky never left the gang, and he is now paralyzed from the waist down for the rest of his life. And Shaky looked at me and said, TJ, I'm so sorry, man. I'm sorry. He said, that bullet was not meant for you. I was trying to get someone else, and that bullet was not for you, and I apologize. And I looked at Shaky and I said, Shaky, listen, man, you don't have to apologize. It's okay. It's okay. I said, but I do want to say something to you. Thank you for pulling that trigger. Now, I know you're looking at me crazy, and I know you're saying, wow, that bullet was really messed up his brain. But no, let me share something with you. By Shaky pulling that trigger, it triggered something in me. By Shaky pulling that trigger, I lost my sight. They told my parents that it's a good chance that I'll never regain my sight again, that I will possibly be blind for the rest of my life. Then I lost my sight. Then I was blind, but now I have vision for my life. They told my parents. The surgeon said, Mr. and Mrs. Jordan, I have to be honest with you. We have him back alive. We revived him. But I got to be honest. It's a good chance that if he lives, he will live clinically brain dead for the rest of his life and will live in a vegetative state for the remainder of his life. You know what? That's what they told me then. But now you're looking at an individual that have one of the vividest and wildest imaginations that an individual could ever have. They said I'll be brain dead, but now I have an imagination. My imagination I had to use to visualize myself walking again so that I could walk again. If Shaky would not have pulled that trigger, I would not have died. And the things that was inside of me, my dreams and my goals would not have died in me. But though I died, there was something that was birthed inside of me. If Shaky would not have pulled that trigger, I wouldn't be here today to be a messenger and to give you the message of integrity, faithfulness, support, being a unifier and a visionary. 5 bullet points and 5 steps to help you live the life that you desire to live and live a life that will outlive you. You know what? My life will never be the same. My life will never be the same, nor will the lives of millions of people, because I've been left here to share my story with you and give you tools to allow you to do what it is that you were designed to do. I am Dr. Ternae Jordan, Sr.'s son, and the grandson of Melvin Jordan, and I am here and alive to carry on the legacy. It's been my plum-pleasing pleasure to talk with you today and share with you my story. That's what happened to me. A bullet to my head saved my life. What will it take for you? Thank you so very much.